exactly our planned weekly video that we'll be having. So today is like a bonus video where I'll be talking about a fragment of authentication that I missed out on. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about, I like sharing it with people, talking about it oftentimes. And at some point in the video, you'd also have a different voiceover where I'll be using to explain a particular diagram. So basically, if you remember from the first week, I mentioned something around access control concept called identification, authentication, and authorization. And remember I said that identification means who are you, authentication means prove yourself to me. That's the system telling you to prove yourself. And then authorization means that what can you do while in the system. You have access to few things and not have access to few things. That is the work of authorization. So today I want to dive a little into authentication. There is a part, a fragment that I like to talk about that I didn't have time to talk about in the first week, but you will still have your video from Saturday coming up on an entirely different topic. So let's quickly dive into it. So authentication. Now, we talked about authentication, and which has to do with, username, password, and the rest. But there is a part of authentication that we use in our day-to-day life that we usually don't talk about, and it is referred to as multi-factor authentication. So, multi-factor. So multi-factor authentication, it means that two or more authentication methods are used. So two or more. Now, let's look at those methods. What can it be? What does it look like? So the first one is knowledge-based. And I would explain this in simple terms. The second one is inherence-based. And the third one is knowledge-based, inherence-based. So this is what you know, this is who you are, and this is what you have. So possession-based. And sometimes you can have something, this is just a bonus, it could be location-based. So what do we mean by knowledge-based authentication? Knowledge-based simply means what you know. So what you know when it comes to authentication could be your password. Remember we said authentication is you getting into a system. So knowledge-based could be your password, it could be your pin that you use for your phone or sometimes for your PC. That is knowledge-based. So sometimes we refer knowledge-based to something you know. So when you hear in security people talk about something you know, they are referring to knowledge-based authentication. Now, inherence-based, it means something you are, that's who you are as a human being, inherence-based. So sometimes we call it inherence-based, or we call it something you are. So something you are could be your facial recognition, which some of you use on the phone, so you could identify with this a little bit. It could be voice recognition. Sometimes in the bank, they ask you to speak so that they can know you're actually the one who wants to withdraw the money. So voice recognition, facial recognition, your thumbprint, it is who you are because that's part of you. No one else would have the same exact, biometric information. So it's your biometric. And sometimes we have this retinal scanning. This one is used in high profile security facilities. Sometimes they scan into your eyeball and then they use it. So it's a form of authentication. Now I'll still come back to these points just to tell you some of the disadvantage of using inherence-based. Now possession-based. Possession-based just means what you have. So what you have could be a one-time passcode, or some of you would have received OTP before. So it's possession-based. It could be you could receive it as an SMS on an app or something like that. Some of you also use this Google authentication that asks you for a code to be able to log in some. You've put your password into it. Don't forget, we are referring to multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor could be two or more of this for you to be able to log in into a system. So after putting your password, then you ask for an OTP. So it makes it, multi-factor. It means you have password that we have used, which is, password, knowledge base, something you know. Now you are using something you have like OTP, like your Google Authenticator, like your Microsoft Authenticator. Sometimes some people use like smart token to get codes. And then location based could be that, you know, a system is created that outside of that location you are not able to log in. Like, say for example, some office locations, if you want to log into some of their system and you're not in the physical location of the office, you won't be able to gain access. So these are like the few points I wanted to discuss regarding authentication. Then I mentioned that one of the disadvantage of using inheritance based, which is like biometric, your biometric fingerprints, your facial recognition, your retina scanning and the rest. So I'll quickly just touch base with some of the disadvantages. So basically, we have a biometric system, a biometric system. Now, this system is like one of the most secured authentication system, usually, because your password could be cracked, so many things. But even though it's one of the most secured authentication method, we still have like two disadvantages associated with it. And one of the disadvantages is that once your biometric data is stolen, there is no way to reset it. You can't reset it. You can't reset your fingerprint because your fingerprint remains the same. So if stolen, you can't reset. Unlike your password, if you remember, if somebody hacked into your platform, gets all your password, or your password is exposed, you could quickly reset it, stuff like that. But for biometric, it's difficult. And the second part is there could be error when it comes to biometric. It's very rare, but it's very possible. So we have one of the errors that could occur. We have something called FAR and we have something called FRR. So what does these two concepts mean? FAR means false acceptance rate and FRR means false rejection rate. And I'll quickly explain both to you because I know you're also familiar with this. It happens day to day, but you don't know that it's a concept in cybersecurity. So for false acceptance rate, it means that, remember at the beginning of the lessons I was explaining to you what authorized user mean and what unauthorized user mean. So false acceptance rate is the system accepting an unauthorized user to be an authorized user, and I'll break it down. Now the second part of it is you're an authorized user, you're supposed to sign in into the biometric system, maybe with your facial recognition, but the system is rejecting you and saying they can't recognize your face. Now let me break it down. So for example, you have a phone that you can sign into with your facial recognition, and then somebody that looks like you, maybe your sister, your brother, or something like that, is able to open your phone with their face. So it means that there is a false acceptance rate with that system, because if not, anybody other than you shouldn't be able to sign in into the system. And if you're trying to sign into the system keeps giving you error or something like that, it means that there is a false rejection rate. Even though your face is in a biometric system, it's still rejecting. So that's some of the disadvantages I'd like to talk about. Then the final thing in this bonus video I'd like to talk about is called SSO. So SSO is SSO, the full meaning of SSO is single sign-on. And what does single sign-on mean? It's a technology that helps you to sign in into one platform, and because you are signed in into one platform, you're able to log into every other multiple platforms or multiple applications without having to provide your credentials again. Now I'll explain. We use this on a day-to-day. You want to sign in into an application and they tell you, you can use your username and password or your email and password, or you can sign in through Google. Now, when you click on signing in through your Google account or through your Apple account, it redirects you back to maybe Google platform or Apple platform for you to sign in if you're not already signed in. And then with that credential, you're able to log in into this new system. So that's what SSO means. It means something that has to do with federation, but I won't talk about federation now, it's a little deep. But single sign-on just means that you have a technology that once you sign into an application, you're able to log into multiple applications without having to provide your credentials anymore. So somewhere in this video that I'm making, I'll put a voiceover and a diagram to explain to you how that looks from the back. So as you can see from this diagram I've added, a user wants to log in with Google account, which is the SSO I was trying to explain, to Trello platform. Trello is like a project management platform. Now from the number one, you see that the user wants to log in. They don't want to put additional credential into Trello, so they want to use their Google account. And then Trello goes back to Google login to say, do you have, a user like this with you? And then Google SSO goes back to the user, asks the user to log in if they are not already logged into the Google account. The user enter credential for Google, not for Trello, as you can see from number 4. And number 5 is that Google goes to the authentication server to ask, is this really correct? Is this person proven to be on the system? A token is sent back to Google. Google sends back this SAML. It's like an hypermark language that is used for access management, back to Trello. Trello, there is a validation, and then once the token is valid from the authentication platform and server of Google, then the user is allowed to log in into the system. So you see all of the things that happen in backend. It just shows that with your Google credentials, you can sign into Trello because of single sign-on. Backend. I know when you click on sign in with Google, you just find yourself in the new platform. But I would explain to you what happens in the backend before they sign with you. Stay tuned for our video on Saturday. See you. Bye.